Well, of course, alongside with a state dictatorship comes censorship. So, Diane, you've been absolutely taking the lid off how censorship is working across the country, and also, of course, how the library and the educational system is being used to groom particularly children and young people. What have you got for us?
Yeah, thanks, Brian. So last week I was in Buckingham at the University of Buckingham doing a talk that I was invited to present by Professor Dennis Hayes, who is the Director of Academics for Academic Freedom, and I've interviewed him previously on UK Column. This was called In Defense of Libraries, and I added the subtitle, They're Burning Books Again, because they actually are. And I just wanted to thank everyone who came out to see my talk. We had a mix of friends of the University of Buckingham, as well as members of UK Column, and in some cases, some drove as far as 80 miles away to come see me. So what's actually happening here is what I realized is hypocrisy, and this came out of some of the discussion that happened as a result of UK Column members asking me questions after the end of my talk. And what I want to talk about is, as people know that have watched me previously, talking about the sexualization of children when it comes to the library content that's been being provided to children as young as primary school age, which of course includes as young as children in kindergarten, so 5-year-olds. One thing that's important to note is that no books are actually censored or banned in the UK or in America, but the librarians both in the UK and in America under the American Library Association, as well as here the Chartered Institute of Library and Information Professionals, which sort of booted me out of my profession originally, they are basically saying that we have to put this in front of children because it's inclusive, it's diverse, and so they need to see these things. So just as a reminder, here's a couple of examples. We have, for example, In My Daddy's Belly. This was a book that says it's the story of a transgender dad giving birth, obviously meant for young children. So how confusing is that going to be? Another really shocking example is there's basically a glossary in a book that's called This Book is Gay. And you can look at this glossary yourself and you can see that, for at least for me, there are words that were defined that I've never even heard of myself. And this has also been found in primary schools in the libraries throughout the West. If parents want to do this for their children, that's fine. But the issue is that the state is putting it in front of their children without the knowledge of the parents, because the parents aren't being told what they're being provided in school. This, as we know from work done by Hugh McCarthy, which has been published on UK Column in recent times, this is actually happening according to guidance provided by globalist organizations such as the UN and the World Health Organization, which states that children are sexual beings from birth and therefore should be exposed to this content. On the other hand, university and national libraries are actually censoring, and they call it decolonizing. But actually what it means is that they are destroying library collections and catalogs. So I have just a short clip here from the University of Leeds Library, just as an example of how they define decolonization in the library.
A question that's often asked is, what does it mean to decolonize the library?
So here's a video to explain what that means.
First, let's start with the definition. To decolonize something is to identify, challenge, and revise or replace assumptions, ideas, values, and practices that reflect a colonizer's dominating influence, and especially a Eurocentric dominating influence. But why does decolonization matter to the library?
Decolonizing the library encourages students and staff to challenge unconscious biases that have been formed by a fixation on Eurocentric perspectives, narratives, and knowledge systems. Put simply,
so that, again, is the University of Leeds. That is on YouTube if you want to see the entire video. So what we're seeing is that British, Western European, so-called Eurocentric content, it needs to be moved aside in British libraries to make room for the prioritization of content that is not British, Western, European. So I want to be clear, there's nothing wrong with adding different voices from different countries and different perspectives from around the world. But what I'm hearing and what I'm seeing is that academics in this country are experiencing that some of their long-standing materials, basic textbooks, research materials, are being removed from the library by the librarians, from the catalog and from the collection without the knowledge or any discussion from the academics. And that, to me, is censorship. So when we combine that with the fact that librarians are pushing sexualization materials in front of primary school children, and that they're removing materials from university age people who are of consent, who, in my opinion, can read anything they want to. I just find it's just a staggering example of hypocrisy of what the librarians and library associations are doing to readers.
Thank you, Diane, for that. Now, Brian, we're going to